One of the things that's been on my mind today is religion, especially with all this Olympic stuff. I was trying to let it go. But then people that I personally know are continuing to buy into misinformation, refusing to believe the truth. They're like, oh, it's intentional. We're being attacked. You know what? They weren't being attacked, but maybe they should be. And by they, I mean closed minded, hostile Christians. So I am not a Christian. I grew up with society trying to program me to be a Christian, but I was born with a connection to God. And I knew I was connected to God. I didn't know the language that people were using, but I already had that divine connection to my creator or higher self, higher power, however you want to articulate it. And I knew in my heart, and I could feel it in my being as I was brought up and slowly exposed to things, that something wasn't quite right. That there was like a lot of good stuff in the Bible and what people were preaching about Christianity. I particularly enjoyed Bible stories, and I love Jesus. So I'm not a Christian, but I love Jesus. To me, I grew up with this just intuitive knowing and understanding that Jesus was like a big brother for me. He was a role model and a mentor. He was someone that I aspired to be like. I never, ever felt like I was supposed to worship him. I just fundamental issues with Christianity. I mean, the big ones for me being when people do the fire and brimstone stuff, because God is love. God and the universe are love. And if you actually believe in God, at least in my opinion, because we all have our own unique understanding. But to me, God is supposed to be all powerful. Like I don't think God's all knowing, but I think he's capable of all knowing. I think God is constantly evolving, because knowing everything in any one moment would be absolutely horrible. But God is, omnipresent. God is omnipresent, omnipotent. No, maybe from our perspective, but not in the grand sense of everything. Like we're evolving together. It's a reciprocal relationship. We're like little nanoprobes exploring, and he's collecting our data, and we're continuing to evolve and to explore our existence together. But I knew from a very early age what my connection to God was, that I didn't need a middleman, that I didn't need to go sit in a church in order to have a connection with God. I resented the fact that people tried to make me feel like I did not have a connection to God, and like my connection from God would be blocked if I didn't believe or do X, Y, or Z. For me, God, higher power, whatever, nature, like man-made things, yeah, they're great, but that's not where God is. God isn't inside this building. Why would I go inside this building and separate myself from God's creation? For me, nature is church. And you don't need church. Church is great for community. There are a lot of positive things about church, but not everybody needs it. And I think the thing that I would just like to share, and the point that I would like to make, is that we are all connected to God and the universe and whatever, however we choose to interpret or not interpret it, because all of us have a unique relationship, and all of us are at different stages of spiritual growth, moving in whatever direction. In the grand scheme of things, from my belief, it's all of God and for God, because in order to know what you are, you have to know what you're not. And so there's a purpose for everything. There's a reason for everything, absolutely everything. Some of those purposes might be for us to explore parts of ourselves and discover what we do not like and what we do not stand for, and for God to also discover that and work through it in the future. But we are born connected because we are God. We are God. We are of God. We are all facets of God. We are swimming together. We are surrounded by God. And it's these people that try to tell us how to live, how to be, that what we're doing is wrong. And it just blows my mind, because to me it seems so basic that if you love God, Trust in God. Believe in God. If you believe in God, nothing is greater than God. So how can any of these things that they're so worried about, how can they not be of God? How can anyone's natural expression, natural expression of themselves not be of God? Now, what's happened in our society is that we keep trying to force people to be little molds of each other. And by causing people to suppress who they are and therefore disconnect them from their divine nature, we are making people sick. And this is how we end up having mass shootings at high schools and all kinds of things, because we are forcing people to deny their connection, their nature in various aspects and all of that. And that pushes them into a place of darkness. You can only corner an animal for so long before it lashes out. So there's a lot that could be said about this, but I just want to remind you that you were born perfect. It's society that effed you up. Now, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, we all need to process, before you can solve a problem, you have to identify the problem. And then you have to process it. And it can take some time to process this. It can take a lot of time to process this. But ideally, what we need to do is we need to be proactive, not reactive. Now, we all have to vent and get things out at time to time. And, maybe sometimes we got to fight about stuff because people just won't freaking allow you the space you need in order to exist. But ultimately, we need to be the change that we want to see in the world. So what can we do? We can work on ourselves. We can raise awareness. We can come together as a community to heal and work through issues and help each other heal. And then from there, we can work on the larger problems. But the thing is that if each of us just started working on ourselves to be the change that we want to be, and led by example and showed other people that there are other ways of living, that it's okay to be different, that it's okay to embrace who you are naturally. There's no wrong way to love. There's no wrong way to live. It's trying to force people to live to somebody else's mold that causes them to do horrible things. And if we would just stop trying to do that, we wouldn't have so many predators and murderers and narcissists and power-hungry, bureaucrats and etc. And for the love of God, we need to stop chasing money. Stop chasing it. Money will not buy you happiness. Happiness is found within. We need to find our joy and discover our calling. And our calling may not be the job that we do to support ourselves, but if you have your joy and your calling, it doesn't matter what your job is. So anyways, that's my sermon for the night. I hope you guys are well and that you got something out of this, and feel free to leave a comment, guys. It would be really nice to have a discussion about this and to form that community that I just mentioned, because so many of us are like this. We were brought up in a society that we knew wasn't right, that we knew didn't make sense, but we had to adapt to it in order to survive. But at a certain point, certain age, certain whatever you have to get to, you reach a point where you no longer have to conform in order to survive. We're strong enough now to stand up for ourselves and to share our voice. And I really hope that more of us do.